Hello everyone, this is Chase Duffy, educator and sometimes writer. I've renamed this channel the Chronicles of Chase to reflect the focus upon workshopping my creative writing. I'm back with part 2 of the story, Naltithconet. Part 1 has been up for nearly 2 days and we've already got a strong 24 views and a like and some comments from my very supportive partner, Recording Rissa. A link to her channel and to part 1 if you missed it will be in the bio below this video. In addition to the story, I'll be doing iPad gameplays in the background of these videos. Today's game is Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. If you like what you hear, please like and subscribe and stay tuned for part 3. Anyway, without further ado, I give you Naltithconet Part 2. Craig pulls his hands down from his face, resubmerging them into the freezing water around him. The walls around him, were covered in complex calligraphy. His eyes ran up and down the geometric spirals and mandalas, perplexed by every crevice. As they traveled further down the corridor, he realizes the ridges are getting more visible. The light, he thinks, kicking himself for being so thick, and yet something in his body strains against his very will as he tries to turn toward the conflagration ahead of him. After a couple of seconds, minutes, hours, he could not say for sure. In considerable effort, Craig pulls his gaze upwards. What he sees makes him want to tremble, to call out for somebody, something to deliver him. He knows immediately that he is in the presence of something much more than human, much more than any kind of beast, wild or tamed, that he has ever known. She sits, crouching, her elbows resting on her knees as her hands reach up to play with what look like earrings. Branches of pine, but that couldn't be, he thinks. Maybe seaweed? Cover her arms, torso, and legs. Bits of branch mingle and float amongst the untamed brambles of her long, wild hair. A beautiful headdress of deep azure and crimson crowns this wild mane, which he could now see complements similar jewels in the earrings. Craig's gaze drops slightly and meet the eyes of the creature, eyes filled with rage and sorrow. His eyes drop precipitously when he sees this, as he has not the bravado nor the stupidity to get into a staring contest with an angry goddess. Demon? Of that he was not sure. As his eyes dart down to his feet, Craig swears he can see enormous, human-like hands on the creatures, human hands without fingers. "You dare to look upon me?" A voice as big as a tsunami thunders in the water above. "Then look away?" Craig jumps, nearly 10 feet in the air, or water rather, even fluttering a kick or two when the voice first addresses him. As he settles back onto the dinghy's seat, trembling, eyes still instinctively glued to his feet, the voice comes booming through the water again. "Look at me, mortal, if you value your life." Craig begins wrenching his gaze back up towards the being's face, having no less trouble than the first time. As his eyes reach the goddess's face once again, he feels his body straining away from the sheer magnitude of her presence, almost like a bonfire that's raging out of control, except with no heat. God, he could use some heat, he thinks, as his body strains back against the boat, the old wood digging deep into his lower vertebrae. She just stares back at Craig, eyes burning as they had been a minute ago. He scans her face, looking for signs in twitches of her nose, her mouth, her brows, but she doesn't say anything. Finally, Craig cracks, giving in to an urge he didn't even think possible in this scenario, the urge to speak. Who are you?" he whispers in a barely audible voice. "Where am I? What do you want from me?" He continues, trying all the while to not break the intense eye contact he and the being were holding. Her brow furrows intensely, revealing deep chasms and rivulets not unlike the stonework he'd been admiring on the walls. But these chasms send chills of terror pulsating through his body. Have I angered her? He thinks with terror. But still, she does not speak, and again they are locked into an intense staring match. A school of fish swims right between their lines of vision, and Craig struggles to maintain total focus upon the figure before him. Her headdress, earrings, and branches wave in the passing current from the fishes. And all the while, she continues staring daggers, almost through Craig's body. The passing fish trouble her not, and it seems that Craig's questions may have been in the same boat. The bad joke angers him and almost makes him lose his focus, which in turn angers him more. He was supposed to be in Baltimore, making money to provide for his family. He didn't have time for this stoic, sometimes screaming, mostly staring deity, or the angry expressions and uncomfortable silences she was dealing out. He could have just taken the damn White Marsh button hook and been there already. Just as Craig is about to speak again, this time far louder and more disrespectful, the voice comes booming over him again. "You dare question me, mortal? You ask who I am?" The deity pauses for a moment, crouching even further into its stance and fixing its gaze ever more directly onto Craig. Every ounce of insolence and indignation drains from his body. He hardly believes he is the same man who just a moment ago was fixing to yell at this being. Its face contorts, the lines and crevices shifting. It is smiling. A booming laugh echoes from her lips, sending shockwaves through the water around them. "You really must not know if you're acting like this." The chortle reverberates through the room again, making Craig's trembles resume. "You are in Naltithconet," the being states, matter-of-factly, letting the words hang in the water a moment before continuing. "The mortals I once allowed to dwell here in my presence referred to it as Atlantis, but that is long ago now." "But I thought," Craig starts before he knows what he is saying, trailing off in the hopes that the being hasn't noticed. He was no historian, especially on myths, but he could have swore Atlantis was in the Mediterranean, or maybe the Atlantic, or the Pacific. He was damn sure, as a proud Marylander, that he would have known if the mythical land of Atlantis was in the middle of the damn Chesapeake. "You thought what?" the goddess says, leaning even closer into Craig's face. I thought, well, I didn't know that Atlantis was in the Chesapeake Bay is all." The cacophonous laugh came again, making the air bubble around Craig's face wobble and shake. His gaze instinctively darts for the edges, worrying for its structural integrity. That is the end of part 2 of Naltithconet. Stay tuned. In the next couple of days, part 3 should be releasing. And please like and subscribe if you liked what you heard. I appreciate you pulling up, and this has been Chase's Chronicles, Naltithconet, part 2. Have a fantastic day.